What breed should I get for service work? I feel like I'm on here every day in the comments section recommending to people not to get and instead urging them to get a well-bred, health-tested, purpose-bred lab or golden retriever. So today we're going to talk about why I recommend these two breeds for service work and dive deep into why they both have really high success rates in the field, but also why they actually enjoy and are well suited for the job. Because the dog's experience doing the work matters. In fact, it matters a lot to me, and it should to you too. The entire goal of this video is to take those of you that tell me you want a less common breed or a more flashier breed or a less boring breed and convert you into Labrador lovers. I promise you, you can get there. I myself was thinking about getting a Malinois for my next service dog several years ago before I came to my senses and took my own advice. Because honestly, you'd be hard pressed to find a reputable service dog breeder that won't first tell you to get a well-bred Labrador, all else equal. Why is that? It's because trainers like me ultimately care deeply about your success as an owner trainer, and we want you to have the easiest time possible doing this really freaking hard thing that we're trying to do, which is train your own service dog. And yes, to all of you that feel like you've been waiting a ridiculously long time for me to say this, yes, I am getting a Labrador Retriever as my next service dog prospect. So after years of research and contacting breeders and waitlists and setbacks, it's finally happening. And even though it took longer than expected, I am absolutely thrilled, and I know it will have been worth the wait for just the right dog. So today, let's talk about gun dogs, and specifically why Labrador Retrievers and golden retrievers, and even sometimes poodles, are the go-to recommendation for service dog work. And yes, I know a lot of people talk about the Fab Four, but that's not really a scientific thing of any sort, and people debate over what that fourth dog even is in the first place. So today, let's talk about the terrific two, the Labrador Retriever and the Golden Retriever, with a bigger focus on labs today, but most of the stuff applies to both breeds. So I don't think terrific two is a thing, but today, we're gonna call it the Terrific Two. So for those of you that are new here, hi, I'm Laura from Doggy U, and I'm a certified guide dog mobility instructor, service dog trainer, and trick trainer. And today, we're gonna talk about Labradors. Now, I've mentioned in previous videos that I've always been a herding dog person, and have actually been systematically conditioning myself to enjoy Labradors. It can be done. I have made a complete 180 from not being able to imagine having a lab in my home to being such a fan of the breed and what they have to offer, and welcoming one into my home in just a few months. And here on this channel, my goal is for you to be super successful living with and training your own service dog. And if we're going by probabilities, you should probably get a lab for your next service dog. Now, when I say lab, I will be talking in generalizations throughout this whole video, so don't at me with, I had an aggressive lab. That's not the lab we're talking about. We're talking about the average, well-bred, health-tested Labrador that you're picturing in your head right now, and not the outlier. But Laura, they're so boring. No, they are not. Is it boring to be able to go from a service dog by day to a hiking buddy on the weekend and a sport dog at night? Is it boring to have a stable dog with a great temperament and quick recovery rate? No, it's not. It's fantastic. Can you get dogs that can do what Labradors can do? Sure, but not as reliably and predictably. But Laura, they don't come in fun colors. Okay, that's kind of true. And I also find that to be a huge asset, because I have a dog in a fun color. She's actually lemur or hyena colored, depending on who you ask. And as a service dog handler who's in the public constantly, I don't actually find it fun at all to draw so much attention and answer questions about her a gazillion times a week while I'm just trying to be a regular person running errands at Target for some snacks. You know what is fun for me? When I'm working a client's lab and a person walks by and says, "Nice lab," and then they just continue walking. But instead, with my unique looking little Australian Coolie, I've got children screeching "wolf" and running away from her, or people coming up to me and being like, "Oh, that's a beautiful Australian cattle dog," and most of the time I don't correct them, but sometimes I'll say, "Oh, she's actually an Australian Coolie," and then they'll say, "No, she isn't. I had a cattle dog and she looks just like it." And then I'll be like, okay, and let them walk away. Or I'll have someone, because she's so unique looking, just stare at her in the face and go, "She's got weird eyes," and walk away, which happened to me last week. And that's the thing, because she is so unique looking, she does draw a ton of attention and more eye contact than a more typical breed. Plus, then they'll go, oh, I want one of those dogs for service dog work. She's so pretty. And then I'll have to explain why Australian coolies aren't really a good choice for service dog work. It's a whole thing. If you have a unique breed, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Boring color has a ton of advantages, including that Labradors are the poster child for service dog work, which means less access issues, which means less conflict in my life, which I'm all about. So if you want a lab to come in a fun color, get a bunch of really fun vests and put those brightly colored vests on your Labrador. But Laura, I want scary dog privilege. This is a thing that I totally get. I worked German Shepherd dogs for a decade and I have felt the power of scary dog privilege. And also, I will tell you that a lot of people do it because they don't want people petting the dog, and people will still very much try and pet your dog. I am shocked by how many people will reach their hand into a German Shepherd's face that they don't know and try to pet it. So if you want a little bit of that scary dog privilege, maybe get a black lab instead of a yellow one, and then throw a tactical harness on it and a studded spiky collar, and then call it something like Killer or Demon Spawn or something like that. Because scary dog privilege often comes packaged with a bunch of stuff that you don't want your service dog to be. And at 8 weeks old, it's really hard to tell if you're getting that scary dog look without that scary dog behavior that makes them unsuitable for service dog work. Okay, so let's talk specifically about what makes labs great for service dog work. But first, I'm gonna ask you to head on down and boop that like button. Doing so positively reinforces me for making these videos, and who doesn't love a little positive reinforcement? Okay, so what specifically about labs and Goldens make them so good at service dog work? Why are all the organizations using them? Why do they have high success rates for owner trainers? Let's talk about it. First, they're bred to be a hunting companion. So they're bred to be able to hang out with their handler for long periods of time, and then when they're needed, they go out and do a task, so retrieving a bird, for instance, and then they bring it back to the handler, and then they sit with the handler for a long period of time again until they're needed again. That is essentially what much of service dog work is. It's sitting by the handler, waiting to be needed to do a task, and then sitting by the handler some more. They're also bred to work in conjunction with the handler and take direction from handler, which is an ideal trait for a service dog. As a hunting dog, they're also bred to tolerate literal explosions going off next to them, so they're bred to tolerate explosions of loud noise and to not be bothered by it. This is incredibly useful when we're talking about doing public access work where a truck might backfire or a siren might be going off. We want a dog that is stable under a lot of noise pressure. They're also bred to have a soft mouth and not damage whatever they're retrieving for the handler, which is really useful if you want your dog to be able to retrieve your phone for you without a broken screen. They're also bred to have a natural retrieve. It's literally in the name. So having a dog that has a natural retrieve makes training easier because most handlers, like the majority of handlers that I've worked with, have some amount of tasks that involve a retrieve. And when the retrieve is naturally reinforcing for the dog, it means they are more likely to inherently enjoy the work, which we love. And having a retrieve and natural retrieve also makes it a little bit easier to potentially exercise our dog with different types of retrieving games when we're not able to get out on a nice hike or something like that. Labs are also an excellent size for most tasks. So they're not too big and they're not too small. You can actually get them in quite a variety of different sizes, which makes them super travelable if you get a smaller one because you're on a plane a lot, but it also means you can get a larger one if you have more intense mobility tasks. But either way, the mid-range for a Labrador allows them to do a lot of tasks that most people are interested in, like deep pressure therapy or being able to do some leading tasks or being able to push a button or open a door. You need a decent sized dog to do those things without it being so big that it's hard to manage in a public setting. They also come in a couple different models with different energy levels. So if you know that you're a slightly less active person, then maybe a bench bred lab that's not going to require a huge amount of exercise once they're full grown is a good choice for you. Whereas you could also, if you're like a marathon runner or a really avid outdoor enthusiast, you might want to get a field bred dog who is going to have more energy and require much more. Now, I'm not saying that bench bred dogs don't need to be exercised. That's not what I said. They definitely need to be exercised too. But there is a variety in energy levels and needs that need to be met for a variety of different types of Labrador within the breed. They also tend to have a naturally good off switch, which can be cultivated over time because of the above mentioned hunting and sitting next to handler for a long period of time thing. Another benefit is that their coat is relatively low maintenance. Now, They are going to shed a lot, and you do have to brush them, but it's a lot lower maintenance than something like a poodle that's going to have to not only be brushed, but also be clipped on a regular basis. Another thing that is so suitable for service dog work is that they are bred to be friendly with people, with children, with other animals, and also with other dogs. So much so that they are bred to be able to work in conjunction or around other dogs when they go out hunting. Now, some will say that they are too friendly. Well, in service dog training, too friendly is something that I can train from. I can train neutrality. Now you get to the other end of the spectrum, too unfriendly, and that can be a disqualifying characteristic for a service dog. The opposite of unfriendly is often suspicious, and a suspicious dog can often come with some behaviors that we don't want to see out in public when certain things happen. So it could mean something like growling at children, which, we can't have out in the public as a service dog. So it's disqualifying. Whereas if I have a lab that is too friendly, that's more of a feature for me than anything else, because I can always work on neutrality. Now, Labradors, they are generally pretty food motivated, and this is one of the many things that I'm looking for in a service dog prospect. I love a dog that is highly motivated by the normal kibble that they're going to eat every day. It makes training easy, and I like easy. Does it mean that we're probably going to have to put a little more work into impulse control around food as part of our training plan? Sure. But I would much rather have a dog that's super into food than a dog that has other much higher motivators. Finally, they're just bred to have a solid temperament and a lack of suspicion. The top 3 adjectives used by the AKC to describe Labrador retrievers is active, friendly, and outgoing. And that means that the average Labrador retriever is going to have a lot of the raw material necessary to be a great service dog. Now, Goldens are definitely up there with very similar attributes to the ones that I just listed. I have, however, found that there are a little bit less breeders that are breeding specifically for service dog work when we're talking about Goldens, and also they have a very different coat. So with a longer coat, it does require a little more maintenance, and I find it personally tough to go, because I hike a lot, it can get stuff in it, and then if they're wet and then I have to do public access, that can kind of be a pain sometimes. But that's totally just my personal thing. If you love Goldens, find a breeder that's produced successful Golden Retrievers for service dog work and have at it. Labs, Goldens, they're both a really good fit for the work, and you should start with good raw material. If you have a disability, you're already dealing with so much, and training a service dog, even the right prospect, is so hard. So do yourself a favor and get yourself a dog with the attributes to do the job. So if you want to join in on my journey and get a behind the scenes look at the entire process, consider joining my Patreon, where I'll be showing unedited training footage for the next 2 to 3 years or so as I raise and train this new puppy. You can check that out at patreon.com/doggyu. Membership starts at just $4, and if you buy a yearly membership, it's only $43.20 for the entire year. You might spend more than that on bad takeout this month, and watching a cute puppy learn and grow will be significantly more satisfying. And if you want to learn more about how to choose and prepare for your next service dog, well, you're in luck, because this video is going to tell you all about it. So you should click on it now. You all have an awesome day and happy training.